Hello, art lovers, and welcome to Figure Study, where we appreciate the form in Transformers. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Revenge of the Fallen Voyager class Demolishor. This is a piece that a lot of people have some very, let's say, divided opinions about. And in some cases I can definitely understand, in others I kind of disagree. To start off with, I'm going to look at his Earth Mover configuration. And honestly, he's a brick with a scoop on the end. He's just he's just a solid mass with this thing attached to it with a little bit of motion in there. But he's just not a very visually exciting piece from in this configuration. He's got some other issues that a lot of people have talked about before. The fact that he's got these treads that are obviously non-functioning and have this weird little peg there that they don't really line up with. The paint job, I'm kind of not a huge fan of. I mean, I'm okay for the most part with the color choice. I like this dark red, almost burgundy color. And I do think that the purple that's used for the almost like plum colored purple that they have for the windows is very, very nice. But this weird sort of olive green for some of the parts, just it's not a very good color to me. It doesn't really match anything else, and as much as I enjoy the red, I think there's just a little too much of it. And then the same could be said for this sort of off-white, semi-grayish color that's being used for some of the other details, and especially the arm. It's just this gigantic, gigantic piece of just gray that's jutting out from the mass of the rest of the body, and it's just it contrasts a little too much as far as I'm concerned. I do appreciate some of the details that have gone into the molding here. The fact that a little bit of paint has been added to almost make the arm look dirty. But I'm a little disappointed that none of that has carried over to the rest of the piece. It's just the arm here. That's the only portion of the figure where it has that sort of faux dirty look to it. I feel like they probably could have pushed that further. Also not a huge fan of the scoop on the end being mostly black, but then they kind of did this weird like gradient effect on it, so I can't quite tell if the scoop is supposed to be black or if it's supposed to be just like super condensed dirty in the front. I don't think they were able to really effectively communicate what they were trying to go for with this portion of the coloring on the piece. I will say, however, that they did do a lot of really nice work on the tinier molded details. There are just a lot of little sections where you can make out a surprising amount of detail that's been molded in, including railings and these little power cables here. I do have to give them credit for that. And of course, gotta have the stamp on there. So I think overall, at least in this configuration, the piece looks okay. From a molded standpoint, the color, I'm just not too excited about the color aside from this red, which I think is really nice. And of course, it runs into a similar issue that a lot of other Transformers pieces are going to have, which is you've got this not very well hidden face. And we'll touch on that in a little bit. But yeah, overall, this configuration of Demolisher is just kind of not very interesting. Like I said, I do appreciate the finer details that have been molded in, but color-wise, it doesn't really work for me. Overall shape-wise, it doesn't really work for me. Got this giant gap in there that's just not great. So I'm afraid that this just doesn't. It's a bit of a miss. Anyway, I will be changing him into his robot configuration. I'm going to have a lot more to say about him then. Be right back. And here we have Demolishor in his robot configuration. And this is why I really wanted to talk about him. This is, in this mode, this is a very visually interesting piece. He is by far one of the most abstracted robot forms that I've seen. Even whether it's like official toys or not, he is just very just weird and peculiar, quasi-asymmetrical just because of the cab up top there. But it's not even the asymmetry, it's just the fact that he's so unconventional. He is just a very abstracted form. He's balancing on a single wheel. He's got this almost unicycle style footprint. He can be rotated forward into more of a motorcycle look, but honestly, I think this looks much more interesting. I mean, he's he's a tripod. He's just very odd, and I really appreciate that about him. Color-wise, I still have the same complaints that I did with his vehicle configuration. Thankfully, he's not just a big block of red anymore. The black for the treads at the top and bottom, the white of the arms, and the gold and black details on the insides of the shoulders, they really go a long way to help pick out more detail on him and just really break up that. There you can see some of his more technical issues. They really help break up a lot of the visual monotony. And even when you've got this large bar of gray going up, it starts off in this dark black color and then kind of goes up into gray, and then you get this little bit of silver in here, and then some details in here, and then it just goes up into all these other colors. It keeps everything from being compartmentalized. It's not like in his more boxy alternate configuration, he's just kind of, here's some red, and then here's some gray, and then, oh look, here are some treads on the bottom. But here, it's all just integrated into the form much, much better. It really breaks apart a lot of that just color monotony, visual monotony. And the shape, like I've said, is just so different and unique. It's hard not to appreciate it just because it's so strange. And of course, that strangeness also applies to his face, which is this bizarre ant-like thing. It sort of goes with the rest of the pieces that I'm going to be showing that are based on the movies, where they have the Autobots. Generally speaking, they're a little bit more human looking, still somewhat alien, but the Decepticons are much more monstrous. And especially for some reason, the Constructicons like Demolishor here and Rampage and Mixmaster and Longhaul, they have much more insect-like heads, which both keeps them looking monstrous and keeps them looking like Decepticons, but it also sort of brings them all together. It allows them to, just if you look at their faces, they all sort of if not necessarily belong to they don't necessarily look like they belong to a family so much as just an obvious group. Like they have just a lot, like a very one common thing aside from the fact that they're construction vehicles that ties them together is that almost insect-like head. But yes, Demolishor is just a very, very fascinating piece. I will say he is definitely not the most functional. He's difficult to stand in anything that's not this pose. And he is so unconventional, it's really easy to understand why a lot of people would be turned off by this. But me, I like the fact that he's weird. I don't care that he doesn't stand up well. I just like the fact that he's so different. He's just so much more this, like, he's unappealing. He's visually unappealing, but he's unappealing in a way that makes him appealing. It's just that level of being different. It's been pushed so far that it makes him more interesting to me than something that's just a slightly odd looking bipedal robot. So that's been my look at Revenge of the Fallen Voyager class Demolishor. If you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please like, comment, subscribe. Any combination of those three would be nice. I do plan to have a few more videos rolling out along these lines later in the week. If not this week, then next week. But please, let me know what you think. I'm as open to feedback about this as I am giving feedback to this. And in the meantime, thank you for watching, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.